Now, Mr. Holmes, I'm going to go to that July 26th date when you overheard the conversation between Ambassador Sondland and President Trump. And I'm going to ask you a little bit about the lead up to that conversation. Before the lunch that you described, you said that you accompanied Ambassador Sondland, Volker, and Taylor to a meeting with President Zelensky. Is that right?
That's correct.
And you took notes at that meeting?
Yes, sir.
And you reviewed those notes before you came here to testify today?
Yes.
And they were helpful to refresh your recollection as to what happened. Is that right?
Yes.
During that meeting, President Zelensky said that on his phone call with President Trump the previous day, that 3 times President Trump had mentioned sensitive issues. Did you understand what President Zelensky was referring to when he said the sensitive issues?
I couldn't be sure what he was referring to until I later read the transcript of the July 25th call, but I was aware of various contacts between the three amigos and his government about this set of issues.
And after you read the call, what did you determine to be the sensitive issues that President Zelensky referenced?
The Burisma-Biden investigation.
After this meeting with President Zelensky, you testified that Ambassador Sondland had a one-on-one meeting with Andrei Yermak, a top aide to Zelensky, and that you were prohibited from going into that meeting to take notes. Is that right?
Yes.
And yesterday, Ambassador Sondland testified that he probably discussed the investigations with Mr. Yermak. Did Ambassador Sondland tell you at all what they discussed?
He did not.
Now, after this meeting with Mr. Yermak, you went to lunch. And can you just describe where you were sitting at the restaurant?
Yes, sir. The restaurant has sort of glass doors that open onto a terrace. And we were at the first tables on the terrace, so immediately outside of the interior of the restaurant. The doors were all wide open. There was tables, a table for 4, although I recall it being 2 tables for 2 pushed together. In any case, it was quite a wide table. And the table was set with sort of a table runner down the middle. I was directly across from Ambassador Sondland. We were close enough that we could, share an appetizer between us, and then the 2 staffers were off to our right at this next table.
Now, you said that at some point Ambassador Sondland pulled out his cell phone and called President Trump. This was an unsecure cell phone, is that right?
Yes, sir.
In the middle of a restaurant in Kyiv?
Yes.
Now, you said that you were able to hear President Trump's voice through the receiver. How were you able to hear if it was not on speakerphone?
It was several things. It was quite loud when the president came on, quite distinctive. I believe Ambassador Sondland also said yesterday he often speaks very loudly over the phone, and I certainly experienced that. When the president came on, he sort of winced and held the phone away from his ear like this. And he did that for the first couple exchanges. I don't know if he then turned the volume down, if he got used to it, if the president's moderated his volume, I don't know. But that's how I was able to hear it.
And so you were able to hear some of what President Trump said to President Zelensky, is that right?
The first portion of the conversation, yes.
And what did you hear President Trump say to, I'm sorry, not President Zelensky, to Ambassador Sondland?
What I hear the
president say to Ambassador Sondland?
Yeah, he clarified whether he was in Ukraine or not, and he said, yes, I'm here in Ukraine. And then Ambassador Sondland said he loves your ass, he'll do anything you want. He said, is he going to do the investigation?
So you heard President Trump ask Ambassador Sondland, is he going to do the investigation?
Yes, sir.
What was Ambassador Sondland's response?
He said, oh yeah, he's going to do it. He'll do anything you ask.
And was that the end of the Ukraine portion of the conversation?
Yes.
Afterwards, you described a follow-on conversation that you had with Ambassador Sondland, where you asked him, I think, generally, what did President Trump think of Ukraine? Is that right?
Correct.
What did Ambassador Sondland say to you?
He said he doesn't really care about Ukraine.
Did he use slightly more colorful language than that?
He did.
What did he say that he does care about?
He said he cares about big stuff.
Did he explain what he meant by big stuff?
Well, I asked him, well, what kind of big stuff? We have big stuff going on here, like a war with Russia, and he said, no, big stuff like the Biden investigation that Mr. Giuliani is pushing.